Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. What a bizarre, passive-aggressive way to deal with a perceived slight. All that benefited was her ego. She got her pathetic victory. Whether it was worth the trouble to appear that childish, I suppose only she knows. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Who are you, lady? I work for a major retail/grocery store as a cashier. I've been here a year, and I've been trained for various other front-end positions, so when customer service is busy and shorthanded, they'll take me off register to work over there. This happened a month or so ago, but I was talking to a coworker on break about crazy customers, and I was reminded of this. It was one of those busy days at work, and I was posted at the service desk as soon as I clocked in because two of the mid-shift workers had called out. It's just me and one other girl at the counter, and because she hadn't had the training required for certain duties, I was taking most of the customers at my register. Cue crazy lady. CL. I'm kind of zoning out, waiting for the computer to do its thing, when I notice a bright-colored leopard print shirt. I'm like a magpie. I get easily distracted by bright and shiny things. I sort of just stare for a while because I liked how the shirt looked, before I realize that CL is staring back at me. I just smile at her, kind of sheepishly, finish what I'm doing, and take the next customer. At this point, she's 2 people away. I'm not paying her any more attention and haven't looked at her again by the time she gets to my coworker, when out of the corner of my eye, I notice CL gesturing towards one of my supervisors who was standing in the short hallway in front of the security office. I overhear the word rude, so I figure, okay, she's probably upset about the long line and thinks my supervisor's just standing around doing nothing. She's not. She's waiting for one of our security guys to meet her at the office. And then CL goes back to wait in line because apparently what she wants to get done only I can do of the 2 of us, and my coworker goes to talk to our supervisor. I finish with my customer and call for the next in line, who is CL. CL just stands there with her arms crossed until my supervisor walks over and sits in the computer chair behind me. Again, I think nothing of this. It happens all the time. Then CL approaches me to do her transaction. It's a fairly simple transaction. It only takes a few minutes, and the whole time I remain my usual distantly polite retail worker self while CL talks to me condescendingly and with a smug look on her face. As I hand her receipt, she gives me one of the most self-satisfied, superior looks I've ever seen, at least that week anyway, and says, CL, I knew you wouldn't be rude to me again with your manager watching you. I, of course, was completely confused. Me? Excuse me? CL, I didn't want to deal with your attitude again, so I made sure your manager was watching. And I'm going to do it every time if I have to. So you best watch that mouth of yours if you don't want to have someone hovering over your shoulders all the time. Learn better customer service. I stare blankly at her. I turn to my supervisor with a WTF look on my face. My supervisor has a similar look and just shrugs. I turn back to CL. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry if staring at your shirt offended you. To be honest, I was zoning out a bit because the computer was being slow and I like the way it looks. She gave me a confused look like I was the one being crazy, huffed in annoyance, and left. Apparently, it wasn't my staring that was the issue. According to what CL told my supervisor, she and I had exchanged words in the past, and she knew I was going to be rude to her, so she wanted my supervisor to watch me and make sure I didn't or step in if I did. To be perfectly honest, I don't think I've ever seen that lady before in my life. And if we have exchanged words, she must hold on to grudges a lot longer than I do because I had no idea what she was talking about. I deal with hundreds of customers a day, half or more of them irate or rude for no reason. But I make it a point to keep my mouth shut. Feeding into others' egos isn't worth risking my job. So whatever, lady, hope it made you feel better. And our second story. If you don't like the way we do things here, you can leave. Okay. When I was in college, I worked for a mobile carrier in a mall. For a young person, it was great money. I was the assistant manager, which was a fancy way of saying I was in charge of most of the store paperwork. A few months before. One morning, I opened by myself, and a guy approached me asking for a specific phone and kept balking at the price, asking if I could cut him a deal, though. I was confident we were by far the cheapest in the area, so I told him, if you bring me a better deal, I'll beat it. The guy does another lap, talks to the other stores, and comes back. Come on, there's nothing you can do? Can I just get a case? I smile and say, sorry, that's the best I can do today, but can I get your number in case we get a sale that brings the price down? This sometimes actually did work. His entire demeanor changed, and he handed me paperwork out of his bag and showed me his ID. He was from corporate LP, Loss Preventions. Apparently, my store ranked top in the state for excessive discounts and excessive waste. He then hands me a document showing all of my friends and family discounts, so I flip open my phone, yes, it's still flipped, and showed him all the names on the list are in my phone, thus our friends and family. He thanks me and says he'll stick around to talk to my boss and one other team member. Since smartphones aren't really a big thing at the time, the LP guy starts talking to me about my job, and I ask him a little more about what exactly flagged our store. Turns out the other two people he wanted to talk to had more than 30% of their transactions marked with that discount code, and our store seemed to lose lots of inventory. Store practice was that if you open an accessory and it was damaged in shipping, you just throw it away and grab another one. Turns out there's a process you need to follow. He showed me the form and said, you really should be between X and X a month to be considered average. He then interviews my boss and coworker who couldn't prove that their discounts were accurate, and they were let off with a stern warning. From then on, I took on the responsibility of tracking inventory and warning the team when we were getting close to the monthly limit. Like a miracle, cases stopped breaking for the rest of the month with these announcements. Fast forward. I opened by myself again one morning. An older gentleman approached me and started screaming at me about being a heartless B-turd and asked me, how the hell can you do this to people? I look at him puzzled. Sir, I have no idea who you are, so you can't possibly be mad at me specifically. Let's go sit over there and have a quick chat. As soon as we sit down, I look at him and he starts crying and shaking. I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose my house. He goes on to tell me his son had gotten 10 free phones from my store, and the monthly bill was roughly $800 plus tax. Sir, if your son started an account with us, there's nothing I can do without him coming to the store. The dad shows me a photo in his wallet and explains that his son lives in a home because he's too old to take care of him. He's visibly disabled. He was already barely getting by paying for his house plus his son to be taken care of. My heart dropped as I figured out what had happened. My coworker had sold the phones to his son while they were on a mall outing with his group home. Furious, I go back to the store and void the entire order. I instruct the dad to bring me every phone he can find. Anything not in the store that day would be marked as stolen. I write up the inventory report and mark all those phones stolen for the time being. Coworker comes in and I say, don't bother clocking in. I saw your order from last night. Just know that it's been voided. If you pull anything like that again, I'll make sure you're fired. Take the rest of the weekend off. He argues for a moment but leaves. 25 minutes later, and early for his shift, my boss shows up saying he heard what happened. I show him all the paperwork and explain what I did to solve it. Irritated, he looks at me and says something like, you know you can't do that, right? He then argues with me that I had no right to void the order and the contract was the contract. Confused and angry, I say, look, I'll not sit by and allow people to be taken advantage of like that. To which he replies, if you don't like the way we do things here, you can leave. Shocked, I walk back into the store where he tells me he's taking care of all the paperwork to fix my mess. Quietly, I rip up my inventory report with a smile and tell him I'm leaving for the day. I call a friend who said, why don't you just get an IT job? What I was going to school for. He then calls a recruiter and sets up an interview for the next morning. Boss's little push gave me the drive to just go for it. I nailed the interview and get the job. My now ex-boss texted me shortly after and said, hey OP, you're late, to which I replied, no, I don't like the way you do things there. Silence. Fast forward a few months. Both the boss and the coworker were fired for theft. You see, with the unexplained missing phones and with no one watching inventory, LP quickly took interest in the store again. Turns out the broken cases were actually team members giving away inventory to close sales. So when I was there balancing inventory and giving warnings, it was letting them know just how much they could steal and get away with it. Without me there, they just did whatever the heck they wanted. From what I hear, they were escorted out by security and all. So in the end, I was pushed to start the career of my dreams. They have a record. Sounds like they got more bars when the interference was removed. And our last story. Man calls sister a cripple, dad gets ultimate revenge. When we were younger, my sister spent a lot of time in a wheelchair on and off. Obviously, my dad needed to be able to park in the parking space right outside our house and closest to the curb. This was because he wouldn't damage any cars when moving my sister from the car to the chair and vice versa. It meant he didn't have to carry my sister very far and could just load her out and in really easily. My dad has MS. It made life easier. So anyway, our neighbor was a proper jerk about it. He shouted at my dad every time he parked in this spot. They had this ongoing war for about 8 months. My dad took it all in stride until this man called my sister a effing cripple. So my dad called the council to inquire how much it would cost to get the space made into a permanent disabled spot. So my dad paid the money and got the space repainted to be a disabled spot, which also meant if the neighbor parked in it and was caught, he would be fined. We moved house 3 weeks later. To my knowledge, 15 years later, and the spot's still there. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.